Hey, Chris Ryan here with Freedom Fitness America. Welcome back to Tactical Garage WOD. This is where we train military professionals and other tactical athletes to be fit for the fight in life, namely be fit in body, mind, heart, and soul. Today we're getting back after our limited equipment Blackfoot programming. All right, so we're on week 4 of that. So today's gonna be a little bit more of an endurance type workout. We're gonna be doing some step ups. We're gonna do some sandbag get ups. All right, and some other surprise exercise. All right, but we'll get into that here in a minute. For the warm up, we're gonna get back with our a ball of pain. All right, so this is just basically a little ball I'm gonna throw down. We're gonna do some quick exercise. All right, so let's start. All right, so we got 15 jumping squats. All right, so jumping squat is basically gonna be you're getting that squat position, come down, and then stand up. All right, go ahead, 15 of them. Let's go. All right, let's roll again. All right, 20 star jumps. Okay, so star jump, basically just like that jumping squat. The only difference is you're gonna literally come down, jump up, and to make yourself in a star. All right, ready? Go, 20 of them. All right, feeling that blood pump. One more. What do we got? What do we got? Ooh, 12 half burpees. All right, so for these, you're gonna get on the ground and you're not gonna be jumping all the way down, but basically, you're gonna put your legs out, go to a push-up position, legs in, all right? So you're gonna start from basically in this tuck position, come out, down, and then back in. All right, ready, and go. All right. Well, I'm feeling like the blood's going this morning. I hope you are as well. All right, let's do a little stretching, and then we'll get into the WOD for this morning. Let's go ahead and start with getting on your butt. I want you to go ahead and put your left foot out, right foot in. We're going to do the hurdler stretch. So the way it's going to work is grab that toe. I want you to pull your foot towards you. Go ahead and do that right now. Hold there for about 30 seconds. Breathe in, breathe out. All right, then I got switch. All right, now go ahead and take your right foot. I want you to put it behind you. All right, kind of off to an angle. Here, put your knee down the ground. Put your left foot forward. I want you to just lean back as far as you can. All right. The idea is to stretch out your quad muscle. All right, so get down to your elbows if you can. Keep leaning back. All right, we're doing a lot of stuff with our quads today. All right, be quite a bit of legs. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's switch. Okay. All right, next I want you to go ahead and get up by the wall, okay? And I want you to take your left foot, should put that heel down, all right? Get that heel in as much to the wall, and then I want you to go try to push your body into the wall while keeping your knees straight and stretch out those quads. So basically, we do a lot of step ups today. So we want to really stretch out those quads because it's going to be hurting. All right. Gotta keep pushing into the wall. And I got to switch. All right, get that heel into the wall. Good job, guys. Okay. Now, we've stretched that out. I want you to go ahead and get on your knees. Okay, I don't want you to put your butt back, put your hands forward, which we call the downward dog. All right, and sit back. Stretch out that lower back. All right, then put your hands to the side, to the left. All right. And hands out to the right. All right, now go ahead and lean forward. I want you to get onto your stomach, but put basically raise up. All right, and I want you to look up towards the sky. That's what we call a supine stretch. Just stretch out there. Kind of look up. All right. All right, that will complete our stretching for this morning. So let's talk about our WOD. Now remember, if you're new to this, we always put our WOD in the chat. So if you get lost, you will be able to find it. All right, so we're going to start with a 15-minute AMRAP, where we, from the Mountain Tactical Institute, they call it a grind. All right, but the gist is the same. So we're going to be doing 5 sandbag get-ups. Ladies 40 pounds, guys 60 pounds for prescribed weight. 10 EOs, which is equal opportunity to suck, and then 20 kneeling founders. So let's go ahead and go over those movements. So with this sandbag get-up, you're going to go ahead and grab your sandbag. And I like to be on my right side personally. So we'll start with that, and then I'll demo the other side. So I'm going to hold that sandbag up. Now, when you're going on your right side, you want to go the opposite with your legs. So I like to basically take that left hand. I'm going to go ahead and post it, stick my right foot out a little bit, and get my left knee down. So basically that knee that is opposite the shoulder, that's what you're putting down. Then you're basically going to slide that left foot out and then lay down while pulling the bag towards you, okay? Then you're gonna take your feet, basically kick them and sit up at the same time. Now you wanna make sure that bag is on your stomach because you can imagine the fulcrum, if it's by your head, of what that's gonna look like. But you sit up and go shift the bag back up on your shoulder, post the hand. All right, now post your right foot, and then swing that left foot out to your knee. Go sit up to when you're in that kneeling position, and then go ahead and just stand up. All right. So here's what it looks in a fluid motion. All right. Okay. So opposite shoulder. I'll demo that real quick. All right. So again, opposite hand, opposite legs going down. Leg out. Okay, and that is the sandbag getup, ladies and gentlemen. All right, these suck. Okay, we're doing 5 each round, so you go ahead and just knock out 5 in the right shoulder. Next round, knock out 5 in the left, okay? You don't want to be alternating during the movement because it's just too much. Just thinking through it and everything, so that will get you guys smoke checks pretty quick. All right, EOs, equal opportunity suck. All right, basically, for these, if you really want to try to do it full 100%, you're not going to use your elbows or anything, but you're just going to shimmy your legs, okay, to the right and to the left. If that's a struggle, you go ahead and kind of use your elbows to kind of shift your hips, but the goal is to basically get your hips to shift first to the right, then to the left while you're keeping those legs up, all right? This is a kind of a core exercise. And then with that kneeling founder, basically get in a kneeling position, all right? And essentially put your arms out about 45-degree angles while you're leaning slightly forward, okay? So it's a good shoulder exercise. And then you're gonna go ahead and drop them to like you're in a downhill skier position. All right, and you're just gonna count for about 20 seconds. So 1, 1,000, 2, you know, and that's what the 20-20 means. And then you go on to the next exercise. All right, so you're gonna go through that whole set, all right, and then you're gonna keep doing so you see as many rounds, actually we call it, as you can. So while we're doing this, we're going to be listening to a Royal Marine Commando. It's from Mulligan Brothers. We're going to be talking about basically discipline and some other characteristics of moving past endurance. All right. So it's one of our core aspects of workout. Some of them we actually integrate different motivational clips to kind of push us and also make us think about our own lives and how we could get better and more lethal as war fighters. Right. So let me go ahead and start that and start the clock and we'll get ready to go.
And cheerfulness in the face of adversity. Now, those 4 things, if you can employ them and put them into everything that you do, then anything is possible. My name is Aldo Kane. I'm a former Royal Marine Commando, and I now run a company operating in extreme, remote and hostile locations around the world. So I grew up on a housing estate, which is, in a cul-de-sac down at the end of a road, which is probably how the majority of people are actually brought up in the UK, working class. And had a very outdoor lifestyle. I was born near Glasgow, but live on the west coast of Scotland, so down, near the sea, just across from Northern Ireland. So my upbringing was, as far as I know, fairly standard and normal. When I was very young, I joined the Beavers, which is like Beavers Cub Scouts, like Boy Scouts in America, Boy Scouts of America, but it's all one organization. And it was joining them at a very young age, which gave me a glimpse into the outdoors and how you can not just survive, but thrive outdoors. And so my twin and I spent years, before I joined the Marines, we spent years going away camping, hiking, learning how to navigate, how to live off the land. And so for me, the Boy Scouts were like a fundamental part of my childhood and growing up. And fast forward from there, 10, 15 years, I'm then, an elite Royal Marine Commando sniper operating in the Middle East, and, using the skills that I learned in the Scouts. I was not academic at all at school. The Scouts helped me get outdoors and stay outdoors. I didn't play computer games. I wasn't an indoor kid. And the more that I did that, the more I realized I didn't want to have a normal job. And so I got to the point where I was looking at what jobs I could do and would want to do in the military. It seemed to offer this lifestyle of being outside, adventurous, boys' own sort of adventure. And that's what I was in the Scouts for. That's what I was in the Cadets for. And so I went to the careers office up in Glasgow, and you've got like the Navy, the Air Force, the Army. And I went into the naval one, and there was a Marine in there, Royal Marine in there, Commando. And he basically said, look, there's no point going to the rest of them. We're the best. And then for the next 2 years, I was like focused. I was joining the Marines, regardless of what my parents thought and regardless of what anyone thought. The green beret is like the coveted headdress of the Royal Marine Commandos. It's renowned and revered throughout the world. And the first time I actually saw one was at a cadet camp, an air cadet camp up in Scotland, North Scotland, and this helicopter pilot sort of swaggered to the front of the queue that I was in, and he put it down on the desk. He was buying something, and I remember just seeing it and just being like, that looks beautiful, like the black anodized globe and laurel badge on it and the green beret, and like I just thought that's what I'm going to have, basically. Wanted to join the Marines from like 13 or 14. By the time it came to joining up, like I knew inside out what training was, what was happening in what week, and the only bit that I didn't know was whether my body would be physically strong enough to complete it. You know, my head game was good. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And it's the longest infantry training in the world. It's 30 odd weeks, very intense. You know, there's very hardly any days off through the whole process. And every week is like a culling phase, you know, getting rid of dead wood in the troops. So out of maybe 50 people that join, 50 men that join, then at the end of it, there might be 7 or 8 that finish it. Joining at 16, my bones weren't fully developed and my body wasn't fully developed. I was essentially still a boy. I knew that it was going to be tough, and I knew that wouldn't last forever. You know, there wouldn't be people staying in the Marines for 10, 15, 20 years if it was as hard as it was every single day in training. You just couldn't last that long. It was the first part of my life where I started to realize that you can literally become what you think about. You can have what you want as long as you know what it is that you want. And I think a lot of my friends at school, they just didn't know what they wanted to do. They're going to prolong it a bit more, do A levels or higher, and then they go to university, still don't really know what they want to do, choose a course that they're not that interested in, come out 23, 24, still not know what they're going to do, dodge around a few jobs. You know, by the time I was 26, I'd done 10 years as an elite soldier. I just shortcutted that whole 10 years of messing around by knowing exactly what it was that I wanted to do and then breaking that down. And that's really, my life up till now has been based on those fundamental points of, you can have anything and be anything and do anything that you want. You just have to know what that thing is. The Royal Marines training is hard physically. You get smashed every day, relentlessly for the entire time that you're there. But as a young man, you're fairly robust, you're fairly resilient to that sort of training. If your mindset is good, of 50 people that start, let's say 10 finish, not all of those 40 that don't make it have physical injuries. The majority of those probably just don't have the minerals to finish the course. If the why isn't big enough, then you'll never have the drive, the determination to get out of bed early and finish that thing. And so let's say I just say, I'm going to join the Marines, there's nothing else going on, like my apprenticeship's finished, and you get down there and you're in week 10 and you're getting smashed and you're, cold, wet, hungry, tired. then it's very easy to just stick your hand up and say, I'm sacking it off. Whereas if that's all you've wanted to do, and that is your end state, is to get there, then like for me, in those hard times, I was in my absolute element. I was living my dream. It's hard to explain it, but I had this like fire inside my stomach that I was doing the thing that I wanted to do. And it was such an amazing feeling. And I feel lucky that I found that early on, because it shaped the rest of my life. You know, for me, what I took away from that was not all the hardcore skills of being able to shoot from a long distance and being able to run miles and miles and not feel tired. What I took away from it was the soft skills, and they call it the commando spirit, and that's courage, determination, unselfishness, and cheerfulness in the face of adversity. Now, those 4 things, if you can employ them and put them into everything that you do, then anything is possible. When I was in the Marines, I joined Iraqi, and then I'd done my sniper course. The Royal Marine sniper course is one of the hardest sniper courses in the world to pass. Has lots of it's not just about pulling the trigger or sneaking about. You know, there's so many different sections of being a sniper that make you more of an elite soldier, effectively. And so by the time I did that selection, passed that course, I was 20 or 21. So I would have been one of the youngest trained snipers in the Royal Marines at that time. And that was, again, come down to me knowing what I wanted. And instead of waiting 5 or 6 years, you know, until I was ready, I thought, why don't I just go and do it? And if I fail it, at least I'll know what I failed on, and then I can improve on that, and then I can, you know, and then I'll go back and do it again. But I actually passed first time. So yeah, and that required, you know, a lot of focus, a lot of training, and a lot of, I suppose, mental fortitude. I think to become a sniper, you need to, you know, there's 2 parts of it. There's all the practical parts, which are, you know, field craft, basically. And you have to be very good at operating on your own. And then the second part is more your personality and your personality traits. Are you happy and confident operating on your own? You don't need another 30 guys behind you. Do you have the courage in your own convictions about making decisions? What I love about it is the fact that you live by and die by your own sword. It's very easy in a group of people in any walk of life to hide and to blame other people when things go wrong and the shit hits the fan. As a sniper, as you're working in you or your sniper pair, you are effectively responsible for your own life and lots of others, and you know, there's nowhere to hide. And I quite like that stripped bare, you know, this is the nuts and bolts of life, and this is, you know, and it's how I work and operate now. You know, I love the fact that I'm responsible both for being successful or unsuccessful. If the why isn't big enough or strong enough, then you'll never get out of bed in the morning. You'll never, you know, get up when things are hard. But with courage, determination, unselfishness, cheerfulness in the face of adversity, which is like the commando spirit, you can almost achieve anything. One of the big things that I think that people are anxious about is fear of the unknown and thinking, is this it? Is this all I've got? Is this what I'm doing with my life? If you're lucky enough to be that introspective and thinking about yourself and your life, because most people are too busy with the minutiae of everyday life that they don't give tomorrow and the next week and the next month a second thought. If you're in that position to think about the future, then you're one of the minority. And then if you're able to think about the future and shape it, then you're in the top 1%, 2%, 3% of people on earth. And that is quite a powerful place to be. By this time, I've already been to Iraq. I've already been fighting in war. I've already realized that time is more valuable than money. I've realized that, you can earn as much money as you want. It comes and goes, daily, monthly, weekly, whatever. When you're up, you're eventually going to be back down. But time doesn't. That's just gone. And if you are privileged enough to get to old age, then that's one of the best things that can physically happen to you. And so for me, when I went offshore, it was very much about using, I was sacrificing 2 weeks of my life to then have 2 or 3 weeks off, which I could then use effectively into reshaping, retraining, and regrouping on what I valued and what I felt was important and which direction I wanted to go in life. And when you're offshore, it gives you opportunity to reflect, because there's a lot of time when you're not working, and it gives you a lot of time to reflect and to plan. If you're of that mindset, there's also, you could easily blink and you've done 20 years in the offshore industry, which means you've spent 10 years on an oil rig, which to me was, it's not what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I wanted to use it as a leg up to then use the time to eventually get the qualifications and the experience that I needed to do the job that I do now. And when I look back, like the dots join perfectly. Like it's 2020 perfect. I was selling gas and electricity. It was a really horrible time. I'd left the Marines, and I didn't leave the Marines because it had ran its course or anything. I left the Marines because I was like at the top of my game, and it's the easiest thing to do for me would have been to stay in and see out my 22 years. That was easy. The hard thing to do is leave something when you're very good at it, because it's completely unknown. It's very easy to stay in that rut, and I didn't want to be in that rut. I'd done as much as I thought I could do in the military. I'd gained as much experience. I just knew there was something niggling me, that there was something that I wanted to do.
All right,
It was I don't know, that there was just something that was.
All right, guys. So while you're all cooling down real quick before we get into our next set of step-ups, let's talk about what you just heard. So a couple takeaways. This Royal Marine Commando sniper was talking about the idea of unselfishness and cheerfulness in the face of adversity. He also had another theme that he brought up often, this idea of you have a big enough why, you can endure any hardship. So, something I think about is, as I'm going through difficult life circumstances, whether it be my personal family life or work life, so I'm trying to, start up a new organization to increase value to, my fellow service members and warriors. It's really challenging. But when I look at the why and that vision and the dream, it gets me motivated every morning to just, all right, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to continue to get it done, right? And something I can even take for myself is, got to be honest, I'm not always cheerful in the face of adversity. I'm pretty upset, angry, even grumpy, playing a little bit. But I have started to realize that the more thankful, the more cheerful I could be, if I could change my mindset, my attitude. Yeah, things still suck, but I can endure it mentally that much more. If you've ever thought, when you're in, like, whether it be a workout, for example, and you're just like, oh, this sucks, right? Well, you'll give up and you'll quit. But if you're like, all right, I got this, and I'm just having that positive mindset, you could endure a lot. A mentor of mine who had been to Navy SEAL training told me, it's like, Chris, you'd be surprised how much your body could take you. It says the mind that gives up first, right? So we have to really train our minds just as much as we do our bodies. And ideally, you train them both in conjunction, right? That's kind of what we do here with our training, as we train for that mental endurance and that toughness. But it's, one thing just to be physically here, getting some, but really it's, what's outside this gym, right? That's what really is going to count in life. Okay. So some good takeaways. All right, so what we're gonna be doing next is we're gonna be getting some step ups with a sandbag, or really, yeah, I'm gonna get a backpack and put 25 pounds worth of weight in there. So ladies, about 15 pounds. But let's go ahead while you guys are continuing to sip some water, cool down. Let's talk about this next set. So I'm gonna get my box here, and you're looking at somewhere between about 12 to 18 inches, okay? And you're gonna basically just step up and step down, all right, and alternate feet. You wanna get a total of 240. All right, now I got my backpack here. I'm gonna fill out with weight here in a moment, but basically throw that backpack on, and then you're gonna head and do those step ups. Okay, so I'm gonna give a 20-minute time cap on this, and then we're gonna go ahead and move to the next evolution right after that. Okay, so basically what I want you to do is get your weight set up, and then we'll get moving. During this particular evolution as well, we're going to listen to another motivational clip. Once I get that set up, I'll go ahead and let you know what that's going to be. All right, so let's get the equipment set up. All right, so still be almost done setting up here. Okay, so guys guessed it today. We're gonna be doing a little Jocko Willink. This was a speech he gave to TED Talk on extreme ownership. So we're gonna listen to that, and also his Why We Fight video. All right, let's get the clock going. All right, and going here in 10 seconds. All right, 3, 1, let's go.
War is a nightmare. War is awful. It is indifferent and devastating and evil. War is hell. But war is also an incredible teacher, a brutal teacher, and it teaches you lessons that you will not forget. In war, you are forced to see humanity at its absolute worst. And you are also blessed to see humanity in its most glorious moments. War teaches you about sorrow and loss and pain. And it teaches you about the preciousness and the fragility of human life. And in that fragility, war teaches you about death. But war also teaches you about brotherhood and honor and humility and leadership. And unfortunately, war teaches you the most when things go wrong.
Let's go, guys. Come on.
And for me, one of the most impactful lessons that I learned from war was in the spring of 2006 in the city of Ramadi, Iraq, which at the time was the epicenter of the insurgency, where brutal and determined terrorists ruled the streets. And it was in one neighborhood of that city, during an operation that I was in charge of, when all hell broke loose. We had multiple units out on the battlefield fighting the enemy. We had friendly Iraqi soldiers, we had U.S. Army soldiers and U.S. Marines, along with small elements of my SEAL team. And then the fog of war rolled in, with its confusion and chaos and mayhem, and with its gunfire and enemy attacks and screaming men and blood and death. And in that fog of war, through a series of mistakes and human error and poor judgment and Murphy's Law and just plain bad luck, a horrendous firefight broke out. But this firefight, it wasn't between us and the enemy. This firefight, tragically, was between us and us. Friendly forces against friendly forces. Fratricide. The mortal sin of combat. And the most horrific part of war. And when it was over, and the fog of war lifted, one friendly Iraqi soldier was dead, 2 more were wounded, one of my men was wounded, the rest of my SEALs were badly shaken. And it was only through a miracle that no one else was killed. And it was reported up the chain of command what had happened. That we had fought and wounded and killed each other. So, I began to prepare my debrief. And in it, I detailed every mistake that was made and who made it. And I pointed out every failure in the planning and the preparation and the execution in the operation. And I pointed out who was responsible for that failure. There was plenty of blame to go around. There were so many people that I could incriminate with guilt. But something wasn't right. For some reason, I just couldn't put my finger on who was at fault and who specifically I should blame for what had happened. And I sat and I went over it again and again, and I struggled for an answer. And then when I was about 10 minutes from starting the debrief, that answer came, and it hit me like a slap in the face. And I realized that there was only one person to blame for the confusion, only one person to blame for the wounded men, and only one person to blame for the dead Iraqi soldier. And I knew exactly who that person was. And with that knowledge, I walked into the debriefing room with my commanding officer and the master chief and the investigating officer were sitting there waiting for me, along with the rest of my men, including my SEAL that had been wounded, who was sitting in the back of the room with his head and his face all bandaged up. And I stood up before them and I asked them one simple question. Whose fault was this? One of my SEALs raised his hand, and he said it was my fault. I didn't keep control of the Iraqi soldiers I was with, and they left their designated sector, and that was the root of all these problems. And I said, no, it wasn't your fault. And then another SEAL raised his hand and said it was my fault. I didn't pass our location over the radio fast enough, so no one knew what building we were in, and that's what caused all this confusion. It was my fault. And I said, no, it wasn't your fault either. And then another SEAL raised his hand, and he said, boss, this was my fault. I didn't properly identify my target, and I shot and killed that friendly Iraqi soldier. This was my fault. And I said, no, this wasn't your fault either. And it wasn't yours or yours or yours, I said as I pointed to the rest of the SEALs in the room. And then I told them that there was only one person at fault for what had happened. There was only one person to blame. And that person was me. I am the commander. I am the senior man on the battlefield, and I am responsible for everything that happens. Everything. And then I went on to explain to them some new tactics, techniques, and procedures that we were going to implement to ensure that this kind of travesty never happened again. And I will tell you something, it hurt. It hurt my ego. It hurt my pride to take the blame. But I also knew. I knew that to maintain my integrity as a leader and as a man, I had to take responsibility. And in order to do that, I had to control my ego so that my ego did not control me.
This is a Tricky Beat production.
And you know what? I didn't get fired. In fact, my commanding officer, who had expected excuses and finger pointing, when I took responsibility, when I took ownership, he now trusted me even more. And my men, they didn't lose respect for me. Instead, they realized that I would never shirk responsibility, and I would never pass that heavy burden of command down the chain and onto them. And you know what? they had the same attitude. Unlike a team where no one takes ownership of the problems and therefore the problems never get solved, with us, everyone took ownership of their mistakes. Everyone took ownership of the problems. And when a team takes ownership of its problems, the problems get solved. And that is true on the battlefield, it is true in business, and it is true in life. So I say, take ownership. Take extreme ownership. Don't make excuses. Don't blame any other person or any other thing. Get control of your ego. Don't hide your delicate pride from the truth. Take ownership of everything in your world, the good and the bad. Take ownership of your mistakes. Take ownership of your shortfalls. Take ownership of your problems. And then take ownership of the solutions that will get those problems solved. Take ownership of your mission. Take ownership of your job, of your team, of your future, and take ownership of your life. And lead. Lead. Lead yourself and your team and the people in your life. Lead them all to victory.
All right, let's keep going. 6:48 to go. Good job, guys. Really proud of y'all. Y'all doing a great job here. Come on.
Tuesday, 9:47 a.m.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
Jules, this is Ryan. Listen, on an airplane that's been hijacked. If things will go well, I'm looking good. I just want you to know I absolutely love you. I want you to do good. So happy to sign. Same to my parents and everybody. And I just totally love you. And I'll see you later. Bye, babe.
What are those people going to do? All the elevators are booked.
In a country that most people would struggle to find on a map, in a compound that few possess the courage to enter, men from my previous life took the fight to our enemy. In that compound, they found men that pray 5 times a day for your destruction. Those men don't care about your religious beliefs. They don't care about your political opinions. They don't care if you sit on the left or the right, liberal or conservative, pacifist or warrior. They don't care how much you believe in diversity, equality, or freedom of speech. They don't care. I'm sorry you've never smelled the breath of a man who wants to kill you. I'm sorry you've never felt the alarm bells ringing in your body, the combination of fear and adrenaline as you move towards the fight. instead of running from it. I'm sorry you've never heard someone cry out for help or cried out for help yourself, relying on the courage of others to bring you home. I'm sorry you've never tasted the salt from your own tears as you stand at flag-draped coffins burying men you were humbled to call your friends. I don't wish those experiences on you, but I do wish you had them. Most will never understand the sacrifice required to keep evil men like those from that distant compound away from our doorstep. But it would not hurt you to try and understand. It would not hurt you to take a moment to respect the sacrifices that others make on your behalf, whether they share your opinions or not. It would not hurt you to take a moment to think of the relentless drain on family, friends, and loved ones that are left behind, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, sometimes for years, sometimes forever. Ideas are not protected by words. Paper and ink may outline the foundation and principles of this nation, but it is blood, only blood, that protects it. In that dusty compound, a man you have never met gave everything he had so that you have the freedom to think, speak, and act however you choose. He went there for all of us, whether you loved or hated what he stood for. He went there to preserve the opportunity and privilege to believe, to be, and to become what we want. You have the choice every day as to which category you want to be in which direction you want to move. You have that choice because the best among us, the best we ever had to offer, fought and bled and died for it. Don't ever forget that.
All right, guys, almost done here. Keep it strong.
I don't really like those words. Self-help or self-management or self-improvement.
There's 240 for me. Come on, guys.
I don't really like what
Let's
those words have come to mean these days. Because there's a lot of people out there that are constantly trying to improve themselves by looking for the one change.
Sure.
The one change, right? The one change in their life that's gonna make their dreams come true. I'm no guru.
All right, come on. Let's keep pushing. Y'all got it. Let's go 20 seconds. All you got all the way. Loving it. Let's go 15. Come on. 12. Let's go. 8, 7, 6. Come on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Done. All right. Brutal. Go ahead and drop your pack. Whew. I got a minute. I was feeling that, right towards the end. All right, go ahead, grab a sip of water. I'm going to chat real quick about, some of the content we just heard, and then to finish off the session, we're going to watch a quick last segment from partner Master Sergeant John Rudd and talk about that. So a lot of discussion, a lot of content today with more kind of the endurance workout. That's something we do is we integrate, our various workouts. Kind of keeps you motivated, inspired. But we were listening to Jocko and his TED Talks famous speech. Gosh, I've listened to it so many times. But when he talks about this idea of taking ownership when things are just horrible, you have this phrase, blue and blue, the ultimate sin of combat. And it's absolutely true. Nobody wants to, realize, oh my God, like we were firing on each other, right? Yeah. So instead of just trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to shirk blame? He says, you know what? I'm the commander. There are things I could have done different, and here's what we're going to do moving forward. So ultimately, people trusted him more. And what I'd ask you to think about is in your own life when there's various aspects of chaos, there's things you can't control. There's things that other people are doing. But what can you influence? What can you control? Focus on that. I was talking to a mentor of mine the other day, and we were talking about, how he's dealt with crisis issues, humanitarian ops and whatnot. And he said, I realized there was things I couldn't do, and I tried to not focus on those, but focus more on the things I can control. And it's like, right on. And in my own life, there's various difficulties, personal life or in a work or whatever. And I really have just got to realize, all right, I got to stay focused on what I got to do. All right. And then the last real clip you heard, talking about, why we fight. And, I just it inspires, I know for what I'm doing and both being in the military and, really trying to inspire, warriors is this idea of like really establishing the character of freedom to persevere in the face of adversity. Because, freedom truly isn't free, right? And there's many people who have died for it. Many people have been injured for it. And then there's many people who are still fighting for it. And it's not just service members. I think it's people who are even, recognizing there are legitimate injustices and they have to stand up and they have to fight that hard fight, right? And if that's you and you're on that path, then I commend you to keep going, right? Okay, so we're gonna switch gears here real quick, and we're gonna watch John Rudd, and we'll finish up the day. All right, so grab a sip of water. If you got a foam roll, stretch, gotta do that. Let me go pop this clip up.
So it occurred to me, I realized, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, this idea of because the pitch is that like almost like violence and virtue are synonymous. One could rationalize that. So if the pitch is that that the way to identify yourself as a quality Marine is to be this, to do violence on behalf of the Marine Corps, then one could sort of do this like logical proof that says, well, then if I do violence, then I'm virtuous in the Marine Corps' eyes. And I think that that's an oversimplification of the matter. It occurred to me in time, and as I've sat and chewed on this more, I realized that I think that in order for somebody to experience, but everybody doesn't have these like super negative experiences of combat either, right? And so in order to have a positive combat experience, it occurred to me that you've got to have an understanding of the strategic relevance of the thing that you're doing, right? If my point in doing violence is to gain this sort of elusive like Marine Corps virtue, then actually I'm doing violence to serve myself. Conversely, if I am doing violence to achieve some strategic means that our nation has asked me to do, then the end product is satisfaction of that strategy, and a byproduct is virtue in the Marine Corps' eyes. And so it's much more complex than I went and shot somebody with a gun and now I'm virtuous. If I understood my strategic purpose on the ground that day, and shooting the person with my gun served that strategic purpose, now my strategic purpose was complete, and I have proved virtue, or I have been virtuous in the eyes of the Marine Corps and in the eyes of my nation. And so when I have this strategic continuity in my violent action, now my reason for having done it isn't to serve myself. I didn't do it so that Chris will say John is a badass. I did it so that we could achieve the mission that we were there to achieve. And those are two very different but very important things. And I would say if there's a takeaway that I get to pitch, it's that leaders would seek to understand their strategic purpose. I don't care if you work in a supply bay, you serve a strategic purpose. And so if you can understand your strategic purpose and help your people understand their strategic purpose, then I think we solve a whole lot of problems, both on this like moral injury thing, but also on our day-to-day interactions, on our day-to-day lives. I started preaching. I'm sorry, Chris. Did I get there? Did I answer the question? So, you know, we started.
Okay. So real talk there about, you know, what it means as far as, you know, dealing with violence. And it's a big part of, for those who are in the military, especially the ones who are pulling the triggers, literally, you know, bullets, you know, hand-to-hand combat, be those who are, you know, police officers. And it's challenging as we work through this. And I love how John really breaks this down. Where it's like, look, if you understand the deeper strategic reason why you're doing it, and it's this truly honorable purpose of like, hey, I'm defending my country. I'm doing what is necessary to deal with, you know, evildoers, if you will. If you're dealing with an adversary nation that is, you know, doing something that is not good, right? And this is something that there's a lot of bigger geopolitical issues with this, right? And it's not always so clean. But when you understand that purpose that you have, then you could go forth and do that violence. But if it's just as John was saying, hey, I just want people to think I'm a badass, then that's where in real life, you know, things start to come undone, right? And I think it's a really important thing that, and one of the reasons why I've done this this organization and this cause and wanted to talk about these issues because I don't think they're talked about enough. In a lot of just entry-level training or just across the culture of the military, at least from what I've seen, it's like, all right, we all know it's a part of our mission to war fighters and ultimately kill people and break things. But to actually think through it, I was on a mission last year, and we were well, not I was doing, but another unit that we were working with, they were conducting strikes on bad guys and basically terrorists. And I remember one of my friends, he was saying, man, the way it is coming across as VTC, they're just like, oh yeah, just ones and zeros, right? These people are just killed. And it was just a really callous way of, you know, looking at the fact that we just took human life. And, you know, we ended up getting this like a real deep conversation about that and how like, yeah, that's a part of what we do. And both he and I were in more of a planning role where we plan these operations that are going to take human life. We're not necessarily ones pulling the triggers, but we have to do our best, as the way I was talking to my friend, of making sure we do what we can to minimize the conflict and to try to, you know, ultimately not get into a conflict if we can and help our leaders guide that. But if we do, to really both minimize our casualties, but as well as the enemies. And you're like, well, why would I care about the enemy? Well, ultimately, we're still looking at this idea of like human life in general. And there's enough suffering that war is going to cause. And it doesn't increase my aspect. Oh yeah, I want to just, you know, stick it to them and really destroy that other country. And in fact, you could see through history when that attitude portrays in individuals and nations, it just perpetuates, right? And it just never, we never get to the end of the violence. So again, it's a difficult topic, something to wrestle with, especially for those who are in the martial profession, particularly ones we're training. So with that, hey, I look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow. Stay fit for the fight in life. Chris Reardon out.